Presenting the dazzling new Desire, the best and beyond.
We actually think Pant might open here to break up the right-handers. So Marsh, Pant, Makram and Pooran as your top four. Badoni, who bats quite high when he plays domestic T20 cricket, and also batted higher for the emerging team in Oman recently when he was part of that. And Miller in a familiar role and position. I think we're going to have some very interesting opinions coming through. Let's ask Sriram, who was with the Lucknow team not recently and till recently, and what you make of what that overall team and the potential 12
Four
looks like.
overseas batters is what I make. No overseas bowler. It's very, very surprising. At 11, I've not seen any team go with a consistent plan of having 4 overseas batters and no overseas bowlers.
I don't want to cast a spell on them, but Mohsin and Mayank Yadav have fitness concerns. It's always a case which makes it even more concerning about their lack of overseas bowlers.
Their overseas contingent as a whole leaves a few questions, I think, because even the batters they've gone for, Marsh, Makram, Miller, don't have the best of recent IPL form. Miller, of course, has a good past in the IPL, but didn't have a great season last time around. And then Marsh and Makram haven't kind of caught fire in the IPL yet. They've had a few performances here and there, but not been consistent. So, yeah, the overseas contingent is clearly kind of the question mark there. I think the thing is that they just spend so much on Pant that they didn't have the money to then go splurge on the overseas players. They also spent quite a bit on the Indian bowlers, though. And even today was bidding high for a lot of the Indian bowlers.
The Indian bowlers they have are injury prone, so yes, if they're fit and firing, they're good options to have. But it does concern me that the lack of depth and experience they've got in their bowling unit. The question mark around at the end of a mega auction, you're still unsure what your real, your opening combination looks like. You'd think that is an absolute, lock, something you'd know for sure. But, the way we're looking at it, you've put in this particular team Punt in that opening position. I can't see that happening personally. I think Marsh will probably open. And I think they just pulled the trigger too early on Miller. I like Miller as a player. He was, a great servant for GT over 3 years and had some good form. But, given that they've got Nicholas Pooran and they got Punt early in the auction, I just felt that was a early shot that was fired that didn't need to be fired off. We saw, other teams be a little bit more patient with some of those overseas players and pick them up at base price or just a tick over base price. So, I think that from a strategy point of view, there's a few misses there and there's certainly a few holes.
If I think about Lucknow as a venue and how you win there, if you think of those black soil, slow and low pitches that quite often get served up there, I'd be thinking I want to invest in some finger spin, whereas I don't see a lot of that at all really in this Lucknow squad. And I really can't see that that's a bowling attack that's capable of winning an IPL. I hope I'm proved wrong because I think it'll be good fun if they do compete. You think of the prospect of Pant and Pooran taking down the spinners together in the middle overs, that could be a pretty extraordinary thing to watch. But it looks like a pretty baffling squad to me, and I find it quite hard to believe they'll be in contention for the playoffs.
Interesting, and I think that what I'll throw in there is we of course have put Pant as captain, which we almost think is a certainty unless they go Pooran, because there has been enough air around about why Delhi didn't agree to keep Pant back, and we think it was down to not guaranteeing leadership. And there are enough questions still remain to be answered on Pant, the captain. So would you free him up and perhaps look at name Pooran captain, who was captain of the West Indies, or was Pant going nowhere from the captaincy after that extraordinary?
I think he won the captaincy, and I think they'd give it to him.
Well, if I'm paying someone 27 crore, they'll do what I tell them to. No one's asking for anything more. But and that, I think the other thing is, I think we brought this up, Pant the batter is still yet to take the IPL by storm in recent years.
In recent years, yeah. I mean, he's had some very good seasons, but those were more 4 to 5 years ago. In recent times, it's been the strike rate that hasn't been always. He tends to be a little bit slow early in his innings, right? I think if you look at his first 10 ball strike rate, it's not the fastest, which maybe then the question is, but maybe him being opener, maybe that's why you and I thought of that as a solution, that you put him up there so that he can take a little bit more time and then get going through the power play.
I mean, the Indian team used him in the top 3 in the World Cup for a reason, as a disruptor, and also to break up right-handers with Rohit and Virat at the top. So I can only assume that if they want to disrupt the same thing, that could be something they do because they have Pooran and Miller. And I think if Pant was the plan and Miller was brought, then and Pooran was already there, then I think Pant, Pooran and Miller is too much in the middle. Therefore, I think Pant will go higher. Will he go as high as opening? We'll find out.
Tavesh Khan is a really good buy for LSG.
Yeah.
I think at 9.75, they were doing well when they got him, but then it was just that they had spent so much on Pant and him, and already Pooran at 18, that they just didn't have enough purse left after that.
They traded him for 10 crore and they've got him back for 9.75.
Yeah, I somehow feel like batting may not be a problem. There's just plenty over there, and they are relying heavily on Mayank Yadav's fitness as someone who's been retained for 11 crore. They have Akashdeep as cover, but Akashdeep's body of work in T20 cricket is not as strong as it is in Test cricket. Right, let's take a rating, shall we? Everything that we've said so far. Tom Moody, your rating out of 10.
5 for me.
Matt?
5 also.
I thought I said Matt. I was going to say Matthew and Matt. I said Matt. The Matt says 5 apiece so far. Sriram?
6.
6. Dustin?
I'll say just because of Avesh Khan, 6.
You're
Just
Tavesh
for
Khan fans.
He was one of my pre-auction picks, that's why I'm just bigging him up.
I'm just going to say that I'll give them a 6 just to give more teams benefit of doubt after big auctions, because sometimes it plays out so differently. But if Mayank Yadav isn't fit, that goes down by at least 2 points, which is quite low.
Presenting the dazzling new Desire, the best and beyond.